My name is Sean. I'm delighted to join us today's ESPC QD webinar. Today I'm joined by Roger Unholz, who will cover TMDL from zero to hero. We love hearing what you guys have to say, so remember to join the conversation about today's webinar and more on X. Our handle is at ESPC_community and our hashtag is hashtag ESPC26. Tweet us, tag us, and tell us what you learned. Don't forget to check out our Learning Hub, which will update the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. You can access and view the Learning Hub by visiting espc.tech and clicking Learning Hub at the top of the page. Don't let the link stop here. Continue joining conversation. Join us for the next webinar, SQL 2025, SSMS 22, and Fabric. Are they married happily ever after? With Rita Eskins. And this is taking place tomorrow, Tuesday, 14th July at 11 a.m. CEST. To register, visit www.espc.tech/Learning Hub Content Weeks Microsoft Fabric Week. Time's ticking. Your future network is waiting. Don't miss the conversations, insights, and opportunities everyone will be talking about long after the event ends. Secure your place today and be in a room where it happens. Save €300 with code Fabric Week when you book your ticket. Before you switch on your out of office, make one last smart move. Secure your place at hashtag FabCon Europe and SQLCon in Barcelona and take advantage of our early bird rates. Book by the 31st of July to lock in early bird pricing and use code Fabric Week to save an additional €300 on your ticket. If you haven't entered already to win Lego, scan the QR code to enter today for your chance to win Lego from Microsoft Fabric sponsored week activities. As always, if you have any questions at any stage during the webinar, feel free to type in the chat box and Roger will answer it during the webinar. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Center, where you will be notified by email once the recording is ready. And now I'm going to hand you over to today's presenter. Hello, Roger. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Sean, and thanks for having me. And I would say as well, thank you for all the attendees who are here. So we are some of the lucky ones who are maybe not yet on summer holidays. So making the best out of it. Yeah, so happy to be here and to present this TMDL from zero to hero. So let me quickly share my screen and then we go into the presentation. Just like that, right?
Yeah, I can see your screen perfectly.
Perfect, then let's get started. So as I said, TMDL from zero to hero. What I will present today for you is, as we see in the agenda, we'll do a short introduction. I will introduce myself first. Then we will do an introduction into TMDL. I'll give you an overview what it is, what is composed about. We will also really be very hands-on today. So today's session will be very demo heavy. We're going to do 3 demos with different use cases, how you can actually use TMDL, how it can be beneficial to you in your day-to-day work. And at the end, we as well have reserved some time for a Q&A session. But if you have something that you see during the demo that you are not very clear about, feel free, write in the chat a question, and I will try to accommodate. If it's too many questions, then I will defer and we will do that maybe at the Q&A session. But feel free to ask the questions straight away so that we can have a look at it. All right, then I would say I'll quickly introduce myself. So my name is Roger Unholz. I'm based in Zurich, Switzerland, and have been lucky enough to work with Power BI and in general the Microsoft data stack for the last 13 plus years. I really went through the whole journey from the old world, how I call it, from on-premise SQL Server databases, um, through then the, I would say, newer cloud technologies, through Power BI specifically as well, and now as well Microsoft Fabric. So I would say I have quite a broad base and knowledge of those technologies. And yeah, I'm lucky enough being able to do this whole transition into the cloud, into the new technologies. And besides that, I'm also a co-organizer and member of the board of Data Conference Switzerland. We are an association that organizes in-person events and conferences all around Microsoft Fabric, Power BI, to share knowledge, to build a data community here, specifically here in Switzerland. And yeah, that's a bit of what I do and who I am. I'm working at a company called BSG. We are a small dedicated consultancy company based here in Switzerland. But I think that's enough about myself. I think it's more interesting to see what is TMDL. That's probably why you guys joined, what you want to know. So let's get started. So TMDL is an abbreviation, and it stands for Tabular Model Definition Language. Um, some of you might have experimented, I would say, with Power BI and the models and what they are actually under the hood. So I don't know if some brave people have played with Power BI, specifically this Power BI file with the PBIX format. So if you change the PBIX to zip, you can actually see the physical files that are under the hood. And so Power BI, the model has metadata, which used to be in a JSON-based format. This format was called Tabular Model Scripting Language, TMSL, and it was usually a very large file, so very long text format, and it was very difficult to read. It was very difficult to like see it. So basically, no one was really doing any changes there because it could break very easily, and then your Power BI models were not working anymore. So that was one of the reasons why Microsoft then came up with this new language called TMDL, Tabular Model Definition Language. It's again text-based, but it's way more human readable, like more reader friendly, I would say. And it contains basically the syntax and the metadata of your model, of your semantic model inside of Power BI, but as well as SAS. So what is one of the key changes is as well that it separated the files or the structure, I would say, of your model. What used to be one single large JSON file now became multiple smaller files, separate files for each object within a model, like tables and columns. You have more of a separation of the files. We will see that just in a moment. How does it look like? This is an example of how Tyndall actually looks like. We'll go more into depth than later on. But basically what you can see here, it's kind of also, if you're familiar with YAML, so it's a bit, I would say, leaned on the YAML format that you can see you have indentation that makes it easy to read what belongs together. So you have on the top, for example, you have your table, that would be here. And within a table, I have multiple columns. So I have a column called invoice number. And then again, one level below, I have the data type of the column with additional information like the source column. So where is the data physically or from a source coming from, and some lineage tag. So this is basically how TMDL looks like. And like that, it basically represents your entire semantic model. So it's pure metadata. There is no physical data in here. It's pure metadata and the definition of your model. All right. So why does this matter, or what is it allowing us to do that was maybe difficult in the past, or not even possible, or we had to revert to other means to accomplish certain tasks? So for once, for sure, the readability is much better. So with this YAML-like syntax, it makes it quite easy to see, okay, what belongs together, and I can do edits and changes easier. As well, we saw it a little bit with the code highlighting. It was way easier than with this old JSON format. As well, the collaboration is much better because in the past it was basically one single file. So your complete semantic model was basically one file, and this makes it very hard to work together or in a collaboration with maybe a colleague. It makes as well the whole source control with tools like Git. Git integration makes it very difficult. And with this TMDL format, we have now a separation of files and folders. So it makes it way easier to simultaneously work maybe on different parts or different components at the same time. Another advantage is that I can now actually do things like batch edits. So things like renaming and changing of measures and so on is way easier. And it's also a bit more like a pro developer approach. It's more programmatic to do changes. So I don't have to do all the changes through the UI, through clicking. So I can do changes in a more programmatic way. But we will as well go a bit deeper and look into that, what that actually means. Then what I also have is some code editor support, meaning that I can now use as well extension inside of Visual Studio Code to actually do editing of my semantic model. And with that, I also have, again, like syntax highlighting and validation, which helps me with my developer experience. So I can see very easily and very quickly, is there some mistakes, some errors, and I can fix that more easily. All right, this to that. Here again, an example on what I mean with Visual Studio Code and with the highlighting. So as you can see, maybe here on the left side, we will again look at this more into detail, but I have here, for example, the definition of my tables, and each single table is represented in one single file, in one TMDL file. And you can see as well here on the right side, I have code highlighting. For example, I can see here, I have a mistake in the data type, and it gets highlighted, and I can actually even receive IntelliSense, like I would say a suggestion on how to resolve the issue. So that's like a bit more of a pro code or like a developer experience that is much better. Okay, so let's maybe switch to Power BI Desktop to give a bit more context as well on why we need TMDL. I have now said a little bit something about the benefits and why it matters, but I think it's easier if we quickly switch to Power BI Desktop, and then we can see it very quickly as well. So I opened up a Power BI Desktop window, And what we see here basically is a very simple model. Like, let me go to the model view. So I have just one single table, and I can see it either here through the relationship view, or if you're familiar, you also have the table view where you can see the actual data inside of this model. And now the what they added, or what Microsoft added, was the TMDL view. So if we go, well, let's move a bit to the other side here. So if we go here to the left, we have this new icon TMDL. And in here, if we click on it, we receive this new window, or this new view, where we can actually now do this scripting for TMDL. And one of the reasons why this was introduced was because not all of the features of the semantic model were actually exposed through Power BI Desktop. There are still to this date some features which actually you can only change either here through TMDL, or through I would say other third-party tools like Tabular Editor, which allow you to do more advanced changes in the model. And so that's one of the reasons why also like this was introduced. What we can see here on the right side is we have this data pane, and in here we have two views. We have on one side, we have a table view where I will just see basically all my tables. And next to it, I have a model view. And the model view is divided into multiple sections. So I have the semantic model. I have things like calculation groups, expressions, functions. Those are a bit more, I would say, on the whole model perspective. And then underneath, I have tables. And then within the tables, I can go down and look into the columns, hierarchies, measures, and even partitions. We will see just in a bit how this looks like. So what I can do in the TMDL view is actually I can, for example, just come here and drag and drop my entire semantic model. And what I will receive is a script that represents my entire Power BI model. It will always come and start with this create or replace, and then basically in a hierarchical list, I would say, it will give me all the definition of the model. Here, things like which version is this model, and then here the tables, and underneath the tables I have the single columns and the data types that belong to the columns. And always at the very bottom, so if I go down, this table has a couple of this table has a couple of columns. So if I go down all the way, what is also very neat is now this partition definition. But some of you might be familiar with this code. It's actually within this partition definition. What we see in here is actually the Power Query, the M language of this table. In my case here, it's a very simple, I would say it's just reading the table. It's not doing any transformations. But if I would have transformations, you would really see the entire Power Query script. You would see it in here. All right, so this is the complete metadata of our model. And with that, I can really do manipulations, I can do editing, and this will basically influence my model. So if I want to come in here and say, okay, I want to change actually the name of a column, I can just come in here and say I want this column now to be named description. And what I can do now is I can, for example, press this button here, preview, and it will show me, before I do the edit, it will show me what this change will do. So if I come in here and I click preview, it opens up a div view, and it's showing me on this right side here that I have a change of name. It's used to be description, and now it's going to call it desk. If I say, yeah, okay, this looks fine, I can just come in here and press apply. And then those changes will automatically be applied to my model. I might have to come in here and refresh depending on the changes, but in this case, it didn't have to do anything. And I can see here now, my column was renamed and is called desk now. So this is a very simple, very quick way of what I can do now with this Tyndall. And I can always come back basically and see it again, or like I can drag and drop new elements. I can delete this one so that this is not needed. I can now, for example, just look into one single column. So I can also just do that. So he will always only then take basically the section or the segment that I selected, and I can just change that. This is helpful if I don't want to have like the full list of the entire model. I just want to work on a very small section. I can just select that, drag and drop, and do the changes that I want to do. And yeah, so this is basically how I can do modifications and changes within my model. The idea here is that it can come very handy if I want to do changes, for example, bulk changes. So here, this one is a bit simple, but imagine, for example, if I have multiple tables that I loaded from my data warehouse or my lake house, and all of them had, for example, an abbreviation saying dim underscore table name or fact underscore table name. With this approach, I can do here in this editor, because it's a text editor, I can do things like search and replace. So let's again come in here. I can come in here and say I want to search for a specific text. I can say desk. And if I open this up here a little bit, I can then here do a change. I can do things like change it to description. I can also say with these parts here, like, does it have to be the full word, or I can even do things like regular expressions. So I have really a lot of functionality, what I can do in here, and do those changes and apply them. I can then preview again, and I can see the options, or like the effect of my changes in the model. Okay. One very cool trick that I learned recently actually is if you have a model that already exists, the first thing you can do actually is, let me just remove this one. If I drag and drop again the full model, I can say this is my original. And so I have basically the code saved, and only then I can come in here and drag and drop, do my search replace. I say replace all. And in case something went wrong, also here preview, and I see now, oh no, here something would mess up. So this definitely doesn't look right. So I can always come back here basically and just again apply my original code again and I have again a working semantic model. All right. So this is what TMDL allows us, really text editor based, do bulk changes and so on. Yes, you were
Roger,
something?
there's questions in if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
The first question is, are these scripts being saved with the Power BI file?
Yes. So basically, these tabs that you see here, you will have that with inside of the Power BI model. Basically, next time you open up your Power BI desktop file or the PBIX file, you will see those files basically in here. What I would not recommend is to kind of like misuse this as a I would say kind of source control. So I would not go in here and create multiple tabs with version 1, version 2, version 3, and so on. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend that. But these scripts, they stay in here. So basically, yes, but with caveats like use it carefully.
Perfect. And has someone of your experience with using the TMDL view of a model for automated documentation purposes? Just thinking, as it also shows some table meta info and the DAX of measure, could be interesting to put into a capable LLM.
We will go into that. So this is something that that's one of the benefits of this text-based, I would say, semantic model metadata. It allows us to do use cases like that, but we will see that in one of the demos.
Perfect. Leave the questions to
All
you.
right, great. So that's high level what we can do. And as you can see here, like this is a very simple model, so we don't really see much. But if we go into a bit more complex models, so I have here now, for example, uh, a model where I also have some relationships and so on. And if I come in here to the TMDL view, we can see that we also have multiple things. We have things like relationships. So if I need to do changes in relationships, I can do that here. So relationship changed, one column got replaced by another. I can do that with this, like with a bulk edit again. So I can even drag and drop all of them, and I can bulk edit those relationships. And this also goes with things like perspectives, like more recent functionalities like user-defined functions, cultures, for example, so if you have translations. So there is really a lot of basically more or less all of your functionality that you have in a semantic model, you can now edit through TMDL. All right. So we are kind of already in a demo, but I would consider this still a bit introduction. But now let's go into some of those demos or use cases that I wanted to show and demonstrate. My first example would be partition management. Typically, when you create a semantic model, a Power BI model, if you load a table, what you receive basically is the table in the model, and physically you have, if you have, for example, import mode, you will have one single partition per table. So it reads the data from the source into this one single partition, which is then part of your semantic model. In some cases, you can do things, or you want to do things basically a bit smarter. For example, if you have a large sales table with hundreds of millions of rows, you maybe not be able to do a full load or a full refresh of this table each time. So you might have to do things like incremental refresh. But there are also then limitations on, okay, maybe you can't do incremental refresh because you can't download your model anymore. So you want to do things a bit different. You want to actually have multiple partitions in your sales table. And this could be, for example, that you say, I want to have yearly partitions. So I want to have a partition for each year. So this is year 2026, the year 2025, and so on. So, and now, for example, in typically in sales, you wouldn't have to reload the partitions B and C because this data doesn't change anymore. So you could actually do the refresh of your model a bit smarter and only refresh partition A to reduce the loading of or the refresh of the model. So how can we do that? Let's come back here to our TMDL view. All right. So again, I'll delete this one quickly. I'll delete this one here. So I have my table here on the right side. Okay. I'll just collapse this one. So I have here the partitions. In my case now, I have one single partition. That's the default. You will usually always have one partition. But now what I would like to do is I would actually make this a bit smarter, that I have multiple partitions. And for example, partitions by year. So I'll come in here. I prepared this already quickly. So I have here basically the TMDL code, and I will just replace it here with some snippets. Now this one is a bit wrong, but you see here, for example, if the indentation is not correct, it will highlight and tell me, hey, this is wrong. This doesn't belong in here. Even like this is still telling me, hey, it's not a valid property under this table. You can even see it here in the problems. So if you pop it up, it will tell you, hey, this is not valid. You have to fix it. And if I then come back here, okay, let's move it one more. And now we see, okay, 0 problems. That's what I want to see. And we have now the proper model. So what I did here now actually is I defined kind of like one variable or one element here, current year. Right now I'm hard coding it because my test data doesn't have all the data, but what you could have is basically like a get date or the current date or the current year in this case. And then it would automatically always update. But you have here basically the year 2023, and I have then down here filtered rows that says for this partition, like, and this I could call it, for example, my current year will always have only data for the current year. And this partition down here is always going to be the previous years. So all the years that are older than or like smaller than my current year. And it's again, it's just a filter here in my Power Query code. So I can preview, can see, okay, what is it going to change? If I say yes, that looks fine to me, I can press apply. And now he created additional partitions. I actually see that he has actually 3 partitions now. Like, say this one I don't need anymore. If this is still the old one, I can just remove this one. I delete it. I say okay. All right, no, that's the demo effect. But basically, that's how we can change it. Let me load it again. Maybe I have to just change this one here, right? And delete this one here. Then maybe if I'm lucky, no, you don't let me. All right. All right. So let's move on. And with that, now my table will consist of multiple partitions. Okay. And once I refresh, from here I cannot say, I can just say refresh. I can say refresh data. We will refresh everything. But if you would, for example, use Fabric pipelines, or if you would use, for example, the REST API to refresh your semantic model, you could actually then specify and say, I only want to refresh this single partition and not the whole table. All right, that's the example number one. So that's partition management, how I can create multiple partitions. The next example I wanted to show is a topic called query folding. So some of you are maybe familiar with the term. So whenever I do a transformation when I use Power Query, so Power BI either tries to push down this transformation to the source. So for example, he will convert my change into, for example, SQL. So if my source is a SQL database, it will try to convert it to a SQL statement. And that's what we call query folding. So it's pushing down the transformation to the source. And this is actually the behavior that we want to see because it's the most performant. But if I do certain transformations, he's not able, or Power BI is not able to push down this transformation to the database or to the source. So what Power BI has to do then is it has to first read the entire data or the complete table from the source. It receives back the entire table, and then it does the transformation basically then in memory. And this usually is slower. And that's what we call query folding. And in this case here, the folding breaks. So it's a break of the query folding because it couldn't push down the transformation to the source. And so this is something that we want to avoid. So whenever you have a case where someone is telling you, oh, the refresh of my model is slow, one potential culprit could be that the query folding is breaking, that it's not happening, it's not pushing down the transformation to the source, but it's doing it rather inside of Power Query. And this you could potentially improve, and then also improve the refresh time of your model. So let's have a look how this can look like. We come in here. Query folding is over here. All right. So again, I have again this Power BI model with the tables. We can come in here to my model, and if we come to, maybe we can come in here, we go to my Power Query, just to show you this from the Power Query side of view. I think it was here in the sales detail. And I think even here in the sales header. So in both the tables, I have the same transformation, this extract date, which is one of the functions that actually leads to this query folding to break. So let's have a look. What's the column? It's invoice date. Let's search for it quickly. Where's my invoice date? So here, if I go here, advanced mode. So we have here, for example, it does a transform. In one case, he's doing a convert to date, and in this case here, so it's here trying to extract it basically and transform it to date. Okay, so we have these two columns. So the create date here, for example. All right, and same here in sales detail. Good. How can you find out if a query is going to fold? Is usually what you can do is if you right click on the transformation here in Power Query, you have here this view and saying view native query. If this is grayed out, it means that it couldn't actually create a query, or couldn't push down the transformation to the source, and it means that query folding will break. So this is a good way how you can find out if you have this scenario happening. Okay, so let's come now to the TMDL view, and we will try to fix this. So I'm going to move over my tables, and because now we have seen that it's actually two tables where I have to fix the issue. And how can I fix it? I will use regular expressions to do that. Okay, I will do find and replace. That's the beauty of TMDL. So if I come in here to my find and replace, and what I have to activate here is here the regular expression mode. So this is so he found basically this this part here, and I'm gonna say replace. Okay, I'll replace all. So that's the first one, and then the second one is going to be this one here. No, back. And we're going to replace it with this. Okay. Now I replaced it everywhere. We can do a preview just to see what happened. Let me see if I can make this a bit bigger. You can see it a bit better like this. So instead of using the transform columns function, it's using transform column types. And once I apply this, so let me apply. And if we are lucky, we can see that everything is okay. I still have here my columns. I don't see an error right now. If we come back to my Power Query, if we go here again to this model, now we can see he actually is now showing me this view native query. And if we look at it, I click it quickly, we'll see that he actually now is doing a SQL convert here to create a date out of this column. So this is now the second example, basically how we can use TMDL to use a bit more advanced changes to use things like regular expressions to do modifications because I had to do it in bulk for multiple objects, and like that I can do that very easily. All right, then let's go to our last demo, which is the connection demo. And here we will now also integrate a bit of these LLMs and Visual Studio Code. So let's open up our last demo. That's this connection here. So we have again basically the same model. It's all coming from one single source. It's all the same database. And if we come in here and look at the tables, what you will see here is, for example, here in the Power Query part, you see that I have hard-coded the name of the database. Usually, you will tell me now, oh, Roger, yeah, we learned today that we can do search and replace. So now imagine that you have to change environments, for example. So at the beginning, this was pointing to a development environment, a development database, and now you want to deploy this to test or to production, and now you have to change the connection string, right? You have to change the server name. And you will tell me, oh, Roger, I learned from you today, I can do search and replace, and I can just come in here and do search replace. I change it, and that's the way to go, right? So yes, this works. But what I also like to do is to actually use parameters for this kind of information. I would like to, for example, have a parameter in Power BI. So if we go to my Power Query window, so you have in Power Query, you have the possibility to here manage parameters. So I can create a new parameter, and this parameter could be, for example, the server name. And now I can reference that, and the parameter I can actually change from outside. Like once I have deployed the semantic model in the service, be it Power BI or be it Fabric, I can actually change this parameter even while deploying. If I use something like deployment pipelines, I can change that. And so it's not a change in the model, because I don't want to be manually always having to remember, oh, I have to change the connection string when I move to production, right? So, but let's do that now with Visual Studio Code, or let's do that in a way where we can actually use maybe an LLM. So I open up Visual Studio Code, and you can either open the model using the PBIP, like the project format, or you can as well, if you maybe have already your model in Fabric, for example. So I'll just quickly start up here. This is an extension for Visual Studio Code. It's called Fabric Studio. It's a very handy extension developed by Gerhard Brückel. He's quite an active, I would say, community member, very expert in all Power BI, Fabric, and he developed basically these extensions to manage your artifacts in Fabric. So I have here, for example, the same file, this semantic model. And if I come in here and I say edit, it will open up basically this semantic model here in my Fabric workspace, if he lets me. It's again, the demo gods, he's still working. No, let's try again. Otherwise, we just open it the old school way. That's also possible to do. Yeah, it's the demo gods. Let's come in here. Okay, now there we go. So what we see here, once we bring it locally, so now what happened now is he downloaded basically the Power BI semantic model into my local workspace. So it's now file-based physically on my machine. And I can see now the definition, basically, that's all TMDL files. So similar to how we saw it before in Power BI Desktop, I have basically the same, or more or less the same view now here in Visual Studio Code. And I have now all my tables, for example, as TMDL files. If I open them up here in Visual Studio, I see again the text highlighting. I see again, I have an extension called TMDL extension that you can install in Visual Studio Code, which gives you now the text highlighting. So it helps you to see that there are no errors. And like that, I could already do my changes here. Once I'm finished, I can publish it back to Power BI or to Fabric. But in this case, what I want to do is I want to actually use my Copilot. So I have a GitHub Copilot here.
Sorry, Roger. Is there any
Yes,
chance you could zoom in the screen a little bit? Just people are finding it hard to read it. Sorry about that.
I'll try to do that. So just 1 second.
Thank you.
Come. See if he lets me do that. Appearance. Zoom in. So
Yeah,
I hope that's better.
thank you.
All right. So I'm using just my Copilot here. It's using, I think, a Sonnet model, but that's just here. It's on auto, but here you can choose your models, whatever models you have available, and we can now actually, because it's text-based, he will have the context of my model here. So I was brave. I already prepared here a small prompt. So what I'm going to tell here my LLM is, hey, act as a Power BI specialist. I have here my TMDL definition of my model. And what I want you to do actually is to change my hard-coded connection strings with the server connection and replace it with a parameter and use this parameter for all the tables. And that should hopefully then already change my model. Here, please, this is a demo environment. This is not a productive database, so I'm okay with that. Otherwise, if it's like your IP addresses of your servers and stuff like that, so be a bit cautious, especially if you maybe use like the public APIs, not like a Foundry model. Because yeah, this goes. I don't want MCP server. Skip it. Because yeah, this might give out some information that you don't want to share. But in general, now he's okay. Now he's using Codex. Before that, he didn't use Codex. But let's see. So he took the task. He is now realizing, okay, I cannot just hard code a parameter into each table. I have to actually first modify the expression.tmdl file where I can define or create the parameter p server. And only after that, I can then replace it inside of the tables. So we can watch and see, and I'm crossing my fingers that is going to work. Okay, he says I found 4 tables. So he seems to actually be viewing or reading my files, and he is finding the places where he has to replace them. So it's while this is loading. So this is, I would say, it works, but how usually things are with LLMs, they can hallucinate. They might not always be aware um, what is actually correct using TMDL or not. So especially if you use like the Copilot here in Visual Studio Code, you will always have to double check and always have to review, especially if you do very complex transformations. It might not always work. Um, this one I changed, I tested, I tried it a couple of times, so it should work. Now he's even asking me to actually go and check the TMDL definition, basically. So he's double checking that the syntax is correct. And so we saw now, okay, he created now this expression.tmdl file. So we go and open this. It's basically the definition of the P server variable. So that's good. That's the first step that he had to do. Yes, I will allow it. And now he is saying, okay, I have to actually edit all of the tables. So he's coming in here and he is replacing now the old hard-coded table name or the hard-coded server name with my newly created variable P servers. And that's exactly what I wanted. I can say keep, that's good. I'm very happy with the result because now it's using the variable here and I can push that back to my Fabric model. So I can say here, publish to Fabric, and he will then uh, push this change or publish this change to my semantic model that is in Fabric. Very good. So yeah, with that, I would say we move over to Q&A. We have, I see, a few minutes for Q&A. So if you
Per-
have questions, please go ahead.
Yeah. So the first question is TMDL supported in Power BI report server?
I have seen now, I think in the, what is it, March version, at least that they are, I think, bringing the view, but it's not fully supported as far as I know. So it's not yet fully supported, but I think they're starting to harden again some functionalities. As well, for example, in the web view, if you go to Power BI in Fabric web view, they announced it, but I think maybe you can see but not yet edit. But in report server, it's not, as far as I know, it's not yet there. It's probably going to come, but it's not there yet.
Perfect. The next question is, are partitions like individual queries from Power Query?
Basically, yes, because like the partitions is kind of like one partition is one Power Query, like one M query. And usually, like in Power BI Desktop, you had no possibility to create multiple of it. Only if you use Tabular Editor, for example, you could do that. Or if you used the XMLA endpoint, then you could do that. But now with TMDL, we can create them as well in Power BI Desktop. And then he's firing, like each partition is firing one Power Query M query, basically, or is executing one.
Perfect. The next question is it correct that you can define partitions with TMDL, but there is no further use on a TMDL side? It looks like we cannot actually refresh data through TMDL like we can with the XMLA endpoint, for example.
That's correct. So you can just create them. So you can define them. But to then actually refresh them, you have to either then like you can refresh and then he's going to refresh, but you cannot directly in the TMDL view, you cannot execute a refresh of this single partition.
Perfect. The next
So
question
yeah,
is, sorry, are this to search plus replace that you just showed for query folding universal unstable? Or
this was
easy?
just one. It was just one example on basically like it was an extract date and a convert date basically. Um, so it's just one example, I would say. It's universally in case that you can try it, but you would have to change the naming of your columns and like I can also share the script, like the regex script. So just please drop me an email and then I can share them with whoever is interested in them.
Perfect. The next question is, can Fabric Code Extension access data flows from Fabric and view TMDL of data flows?
Good question. I would say no, but I'm not sure.
Perfect. Looks like that's all the questions. So we'd like to thank you again, Roger, taking time out today, Carol's webinar. Really appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining, for attending. Please, as I said, feel free to connect, to drop me a message if you want to have one of the scripts or you have any questions. So happy to share. And yeah, with that, I wish everyone happy summer holidays and maybe see you at FabCon in Barcelona.
Perfect. So that's the end of this webinar. You'll be able to find the webinar on our webpage, our website. So take care and see you at the next webinar. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye, guys.